Hello and welcome to another episode of Tokyo Happy Hour. This week we're going to talk about communists and how they hate boobs. Seems that they're linking up with their American counterparts as well. I'm Anime Cider and I'm joined by Nerdigans.
And
Hello.
Kitty, yeah, buddy, bounding audience. Yeah, it's been crazy week, especially for our anime at Anime Japan. I'm really surprised by what we got with Disney and Netflix, especially.
Mm. And we have that to talk about this week as well. There's a lot of trailers that came out. And guess what? We don't have a 25th anniversary yet to talk about, but I'm sure throughout the show we'll find one because everything happened in 1999.
I swear to God, it did. Between like Zoids, Yu-Gi-Oh, Beyblade, Digimon, it's insane on what's happening.
Well, and we'll take a look at some of it that's coming over to Disney Plus. This will be somebody's 25th anniversary soon enough. So we'll turn down the volume here. And let's take a look at what Disney Plus, Japan rather, is going to be throwing at us. Oop, that's not going to help. アニメを見るって旅みたいだ。So I just want to start off because a lot of Americans don't know about this, but if you're not familiar, Sandland is getting yet another expansion. We talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
But this is not that. This is a earlier Sandland series that they'll get you primed for the new one.
But I do want to mention, because the Disney Star logo came up, and we'll get to Hulu a little bit later for the merger. But something that people are not understanding is that everywhere except the US, Disney Star Plus Star exists, and that's Disney Plus's anime service. Here, for some reason, Disney hasn't launched it yet. I think they would with the Hulu merger. So all of the anime that comes stateside is on Hulu. I don't know why people have not realized that by now. Maybe it's poor marketing on Disney's part or Hulu's part, probably. But yeah, and in terms of Sandland, on the first day, they did show like a sneak peek of what we're getting in Forestland. Not much, but it looks really, really good, though. And it starts today, I believe. Yeah.
Righteous.
Yeah, today.
All right. Now, if you're not familiar, what you just saw there was Gundam. Oh, I just forgot.
I think it's Witch of Mercury, right?
Yeah, this is the Witch from Mercury, correct. And this is the one that got retconned out of being an LGBT-based show. That did not go over very well with Japan and got a big heat from Gundam fans around the world. So it got retconned, but they're moving forward with a more forward-thinking metaverse that doesn't have these forced stereotypes in it. It actually feels quite natural with the relationships they have in it. So this one's fun if you like the whole child soldier angle, because it's got one hell of a twist. It's got an M. Night Shyamalan twist about midway through. It's really, really child soldiery.
And that's Summertime Rendering.
Okay, I wasn't familiar with that one.
Yeah, Summertime Rendering was the first anime to go on Disney Plus, and this is actually kind of the reason why people believe that that when anime gets announced for Disney Plus, it's going to be in Disney Plus jail. No. Summertime Rendering is the only one that was stuck in Disney Plus streaming jail. It hasn't been that way ever since. So,
okay, well that answers that.
One Punch Man's there too. Oh, Heavenly Delusion. Oh, Ranger Reject. Okay, so what you saw there, you saw Heavenly Delusion, which is it's very abstract and avant-garde, but God, is it beautiful. One of the animators, I think it was the animation director, was saying that the way that they use like cell shading or something like that, they did it so that they could make the anime look a lot more like the manga, and it was beautiful. Oh my God. Oh. But yeah, this here is one of my favorite series, Ranger Reject. I love the manga. It is so good. If you like Sentai, you will like this series. And it still blows my mind that it's by the author of the Quintessential Quintuplets. So.
I'm not.
Yeah, that was Yoshinoko.
Okay.
But Oshinoko season 2 did get confirmed for July 2024, and it's going to the arc that it's adapting, the Tokyo Blade arc, is actually a commentary on manga to TV drama and stage adaptations. And you get to see like the mangaka's perspective too. The arc is fabulous. I can't wait to see it adapted.
Of course, we'll get more Chainsaw Man.
Well, Rize is a movie, but you got the Rize movie first, but yeah, and that was Tokyo Revengers for those of you that don't know. And that's another thing is Kodansha has had a deal with Disney for, I didn't realize it until like I want to say a year ago when everything got announced. They've had a contract with Kodansha for like over 50 years. So yeah, that's why, and now they're using it for Kodansha, adapted series, and that's why you see like series like Tokyo Revengers being a Disney Plus exclusive is because of that. There's Geass.
Right, the sequel we'll talk about a little bit later.
And that's the Fable right there. Fable's a Mafia series.
Ah, okay, that explains it.
Yeah.
Is this? Let's just watch this animation. I was blown away by just how smooth this was. Watch him put on that ski mask. That was just really smooth action. I can't use my hands because I'm anime, but really smooth animation. Like you don't see that too much anymore. Usually it's the 3D asset pieces that end up doing big movements like that. And that took me back to 1980s anime where they used to do that stuff where the character had like flowing jackets and stuff. Wow.
Yeah, that's a huge issue is a lot of, and I can't stand it either, is a lot of stiffness and like hair helmet realness, as I like to call it. I think it's because, what was it? It costs a little bit more to add some of those effects, but especially in like Studio Orange told me this about Hoseki no Kuni because I asked how did they get Hoseki no Kuni to look so beautiful with the additional texture in the grass and in the fur for some of the creatures, and they said they brought in animators to do some hand-drawn animation, but they couldn't. And I asked them why not have it for Beastars, and they said it was really expensive. And this is a small studio we're talking about. Yeah. And Hoseki no Kuni is their first anime, which is really hard to believe because it is a masterpiece. If you've not watched it, I really strongly recommend it. For like a CGI anime, it is beautiful. Oh, there's Mushoku Tensei. That one's always controversial.
I wonder why.
Yeah. That's a newer anime. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I know it's in the description box of the video.
Okay. Oh yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen's back.
Oh yeah, now I remember. I think one of them is one of them was like Oblivion Battery or something like that. It's a baseball series that's I need to read the manga, but it's kind of like a Diamond Ace or Ace of Diamonds kind of series.
Yeah.
So it's not as good as, from what I know, it's not as good as like the peak of sports manga right now, which is Bungo. If you want to read a baseball manga, go read Bungo. That art is incredible, and it starts in middle school baseball. We're wrapping up the middle school baseball content and heading into the high school baseball stuff soon.
Oh, hey, welcome aboard, Bro Grim. Happy to have you aboard. Welcome to Tokyo Happy Hour. We talk about Japanesey stuff here.
Oh, God damn it, silly cat. Oh, there's Ranger Reject and Sandland. Oh, that animation where you see like D's, because that's his name, Foot Soldier D. You see D like transforming back into his invader self. Oh, it looks so good. And it's it's Yostar that's doing it, and you have the direct. And I know this is why Spencer's excited about it in particular. 'Cause I got Spencer hooked on the series. Yeah, he's excited because the director of Tiger and Bunny is working on Ranger Reject.
Aha! I knew I recognized that style.
Yeah.
All right.
こへ旅に出よう。ディズニープラス。
It's insane on how far Disney has come with their anime. It really is. Because last year, and I was talking to my Aniplex contact about it, we were talking about how at Anime Japan 2023, that Disney had like nothing. They literally had nothing last year. And now you see what Disney Japan's doing. It's incredible. And they said, and I've talked about, or I've written about before, is that Disney Japan promised that everything was going to be uncensored outside of Japan. Yes, there's broadcast regulations, sure, for like certain countries. They'd probably have to accommodate to that. But for us overseas and in the US and I think Europe and Australia and stuff like that, yeah, they said it was going to be uncensored and minus that one scene with Yumachika and Giselle in Bleach where they literally had Yumachika's Japanese voice actor record a separate line for the global version. I haven't seen any big censorship at all, which is great.
Well, and to me, the Disney announcement, which will be the Hulu announcement when it comes over here to the US, this just seems like Disney's gone around and bought up anything they found trending on Twitter in the last 2 years. And
I disagree with that because Undead Unluck and Mission Yozakura family are very obscure. And it's not as popular in Japan as it is here. So to see Disney pick those two up in particular, it kind of shocked me. And I know a lot of people are pissed about it, especially since those are Shueisha properties. Those aren't Kodansha. So it's and Undead Unluck has been, from what I've seen, it looks beautiful. David Productions did a fantastic job with it.
Well, we have the trailer for Code Geass here. If you're not familiar, this series has had a previous sequel, this Lelouch of the Resurrection. And
yeah, that's part of the 10-year plan. This is a separate universe. This is the sequel to that.
Right, and so this is, I have questions about this sequel, the necessity of it. I know that they want to do cash in on the mecha franchises because it's easy toys, but man, Code Geass was such a closed door at the end, and this just feels so like, we want those toy bucks. You like the sparkly eye mind control characters? Let's go. You know,
it was kind of like that. You could kind of make the argument that it was like that for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as well, because Part 6 was the conclusion to the original. But
and then it just kept going.
Then we had the alternative universe, and Steel Ball Run is very, very popular amongst the JoJo fans. They love it, and the different concepts that Araki has come up with for Steel Ball Run, JoJo Leon, and now JoJo Lands, they're really interesting. And
is this the thinking that went into this sequel?
I don't know what the thinking was going into this, but like with JoJo, Araki's mind is very, very weird, obviously. He makes everything as disturbing as possible.
And succeeds.
Yes, and it's a great way to gatekeep from psycho Westerners.
Well, let's see what the West has done to Code Geass. So you'll notice this is not Lelouch, this is not Rollo, this is not anybody we know previously.
その依頼、俺たち兄弟が引き受けた。俺はお前の作戦に従って動くだけだ。若いブリタニア人兄弟ってこと以外は正体不明。
And if you're not, go ahead.
This is they're basically following two new protagonists, obviously brothers. One of them is Ash, who is the Nightmare pilot, and then you have Rose, excuse me, and he is the brains behind the operation of the two.
Right, and we're still fighting Britannia in Area 11. So this is a revisit of the conflict that existed with Lelouch, told from a different perspective between two brothers that are coordinating the way that Lelouch and Suzaku did, but in a more direct manner rather than Suzaku being an unwilling subordinate of Zero. So.
スメラギサクヤは俺たちで助ける。あの人たち、ひょっとして。あんたたちをぶっ潰せ。
I'm not a fan of the robot. I gotta tell you, I'm not feeling the Spider-Man robot,
Or
Miles
the color
Morales.
palette.
Yeah, I just feel Miles Morales throughout this whole thing. Like this, that's all I see here is I just see Black Spider-Man. You know, I don't see the Nightmare frames were so unique from the Gundams. But, you know, I guess that's kind of the problem is that after you exploit just about all the designs you can out of the series, you end up running into, well, we found this on DeviantArt. Let's make it into a thing. You know, kind of.
Well, I mean, look at what's happened with Tumblr art taking over.
That's true. That's true. This has that feeling though that it's something else inspired it, and I it makes me miss the Gawain. I miss the Gawain so much when I look at this suit. It just breaks my heart. Now you'll remember that in Code Geass they do not have like a run around mecha. They have a mecha on rollerblades basically, and it allows for much more frenetic, parkour-y kind of fight scenes that are less stand and shoot laser beams at each other and more kinetic. And really, it feels a lot like how Attack on Titan handles fights where characters are throwing themselves at each other. There's a lot more like actual kinetic movement, like in Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. Code Geass kind of like, I wouldn't say pioneered that, but I guess it reawoke it from the super robot genre that Gundam, the real robot genre with Gundam, which we'll get in a little while, the real robot genre with Gundam kind of like brought in, you should use guns with your giant robots as opposed to swords. And now Code Geass came back in the early 2000s and said, that's really nice, but what if we did the sword thing again? And they did. Very effectively, I might add.
Yeah.
And our titular characters here, congratulations on bringing big boobs back to Mecha. It's been very missed in the past 10 years. So I think Gurren Lagann was the last one to have top-heavy protagonist.
Oh, really? Oh, no, these aren't protagonists though. These are villains. These are these are the knights of Einberg, I think is the name of it. Basically, or Enberg, something. Oh no, I'm getting it mixed up with Four Knights of the Apocalypse. Oh,
so no, these are evil boobs.
I'm getting it mixed up. Yeah, I think it's Einberg is the knight's name. And what's cool about these is that they're named after different chess pieces.
Oh. Okay, so this is a little more clever than copy and pasting Arthur's court. Okay.
Yeah, they're doing chess pieces instead.
All right, so if you're not familiar, the Code Geass mechs are known as nightmares, the frames that they're on, and as you can see, what we're looking at here is the ability for them to move around quite quickly thanks to the wheels on the bottom of their feet. So this is what I was talking about earlier about the characters moving around much differently than your average mecha. It's totally not Char. How about that? A blonde guy with a mask and a mecha anime that's obviously an antagonist.
Yeah, he I think if I remember correctly, he helped Char get into power. I think that's what it was that he said about it.
Now, one of the things I liked about this is that the previous anime struggled with communicating emotion. In my opinion, what the biggest drawback to Code Geass, the original anime, was the characters didn't express much. And so I was really impressed with this psycho face that they stuck in the middle of the trailer. I was like, okay, wow, we're really giving it in. We're really going for the facial expressions. We learned something. Good job.
So nice and fluid, that movement. Oh my god, it doesn't look stiff. It looks nice and fluid.
Yeah, Hail Toriyama, right? Yeah, he was part of this too. Part of this kinetic motion resurgence. DZ3 says, that sounds like the same voice actress as Rukia. Is she Rukia's VA? I'm not sure which one we were talking about. I don't think any ladies talked in this trailer. I think it was
actually
just
the majority or a couple of them, like I think Rose has, no, Rose doesn't have a female voice actress. Obviously the Empress has one, and one of the Knights have one. But it's the Emperor that's in this one. The 100th Emperor has a female voice actress too.
Oh. Huh. Following the footsteps of Toriyama with the lady voice actor for Goku. Interesting. We have Yi Ching Lao here, and he says, one thing I call for sure is this: erotica derangement syndrome, regardless of the sensibilities from whichever the region, is never moral. It's true. You can go overboard with the perversion, and that's not what we're talking about with the Communist Party this evening. It's more to do with the fact that they want a full stop on fan service. And what I define as fan service is like boobs and cleavage and butts, and that, you know, the transformation sequences where the female form is on show. And of course, the little cheeky jokes that they make about characters walking in on each other in the baths and stuff like that. These are obvious plays to like show off the female form, which I don't know if this is new for people, but sex sells. And what do you know? People in Japan happen to like boobs, as most people on Earth do.
Well, the thing that frustrates me about this whole thing with first of all, Okubo called it ages ago in Fire Force, in the War on Sex Appeal arc, as I like to call it. And he had basically in that arc, the lewd, one of the more lewder characters, Tamaki, had to fight like all these, I call them Karens because they really are, all these Karens that were going in on her for being lewd when she was fighting, even though she's trying to save their asses from like a fake version of this villain named Assault. And one of the things that stuck out in my mind from it is one that when the real Assault comes, he says like lewd is essential, lewd is life. It's like, yes, it kind of is. You can't have a world without lewdness. And
again, well, as you remember, in the late 2000s and early 90s, the Japanese were digging up graveyards and putting them on the roofs of buildings to make room for more high-rises to house the people. They were very afraid of overpopulation. And so this is why we saw in like the late 80s and 90s where the male protagonist was, you know, not very touchy with the women, didn't want anything to do with them. If they were in any sort of undress around him, he was freaking out and blood was shooting out of his nose. And, you know, this had the effect they wanted. It made men and women afraid to interact with each other and uncomfortable with socializing. As it turned out, like something like 80% of millennials, that would be people that are under 45 right now to 35, 30, something like that. Something like 80% of them had never like kissed the opposite sex over there.
That is bad.
And that's a crisis they're in right now, is that Japan so effectively deterred their people from having children during their overpopulation phase that it now is kicking their butts in maintaining their population. And that's chiefly what drives it, is that the media spent 20 years discouraging men and women from having children.
That was very, very stupid.
It's Asian efficiency, unfortunately. You know, it's all of them do it. Korea did it. China did it. Everybody decided to get like governmentally involved in having children, and look what happened.
China has a legit reason. I mean, it's fucked up, but they kind of do have a legit reason for it, because their overpopulation is way more insane than say like Japan or Korea's.
And the biggest problem is that it ended up making 40 million boys, 40 million men that can physically never find a partner on the Asian continent. That's what happened to China, is it ended up with 40 million men that will never find a partner on their continent.
It's sad.
It's astonishing. It's astonishing. But no more astonishing than face tattoos in Gundam. I didn't expect that to happen. That threw me for a whirl.
Yeah, this is the first of, I think, a couple of Gundams that are coming, because the live action Gundam is coming to Netflix from
eventually. I don't even think they've announced a cast for that yet, have they?
I don't think so either.
Yeah, so Netflix may burn to the ground and be reborn before this real life Gundam comes out.
Remind me again.
So this is not real life Gundam, by the way. This is Unreal Engine animated Gundam. It looks very well done, but it has the hallmarks of a PS2 cutscene. So prepare yourself.
Are we fighting over this rock?
We fight Because those are our orders.
It really is a PS2 game.
It really does feel like Gundam Extreme. One of the cutscenes is you're about to go into battle with Char. And the thing that I like about this, the attempt that they're doing here, is we don't see a lot of stuff from Zeon. It's only been like Thunderbolt tried to tell a bit of the Zeonic side of the war, and Unicorn tried to tell a bit of the Zeonic side, but usually we only get the Federation side with the big fancy Gundam blowing everything up. So this is a turn in what the grunts over there, the Zaku 2 pilots, the guys that didn't get the fancy red Gundam and the red Zakus and stuff, and all the explodey mobile suits. And so I like this. I like this take. Man, it gets weird.
Those mobile suits on the ground now! Deploy to 42 Delta 9!
It's just straight out of a PlayStation game. I can't get over it. Like, any minute now, you're going to get the QuickTime event to press the A button, the X button over and over and over again so you land good. Oh well. And the other thing that annoyed me about this is like they have all these anti-aircraft guns and these machines are like, 20, 25 feet tall. Like, how do they miss all those shots?
Red Bulls are on the ground.
You look at the little bunny ears.
And then people are comparing it, like they're talking about how the main character's hair has been Netflixed. And it's like, oh God, you could see it. The face is one thing. Because if you look at like Gundam Seed Freedom, the hairstyles, there's some that are more like on the shorter side and whatnot, but the women still look feminine in the face. Here, it don't look feminine in the face at all.
This feels an awful lot like DEI came to visit Sunrise and they brought a crowbar.
Are on the ground.
It's the Red Wolves! They took out 3 fleets and moved!
Captain Area Solari?
Sir.
You ever see a Zaku up close?
So in the show again, they're drawing from like a very quick Dazal's Island, whatever it was, not Rachel Dazal, whatever. The recent one that came out was only a single episode in the original series, but they made a whole movie out of it. And so this is yet another example of this. This is early on in the war when Zeon had like most of the mobile suit power in the war. The Federation hadn't caught up with the gyms. So I don't know. It feels good. I feels good, but the visuals throw me.
Not like this.
But the Principality of Zeon will spread across the Earth!
Something bothering you, Cap?
I don't know. I've just got a bad feeling about all of this.
Yeah, me too.
It doesn't feel like Gundam.
No.
The visuals, it just does not feel like Gundam, especially, coming out off of like Gundam Seed Freedom, where it was just beautiful. It was brightly colored and the animation was so smooth. But here, it doesn't feel like Gundam. It feels like a video game.
Yeah, well, more importantly, as we were just watching this, I was thinking about like, what does this remind me of? What am I thinking of? What am I thinking of? And then I said, aha, that's what I'm thinking of. It is, as soon as I can share the image, here we go. Final Fantasy. Do you remember Final Fantasy? The original Final Fantasy movie?
Oh my God.
The one that had nothing to do with Final Fantasy?
Halo at first. I was like thinking like Halo 3 at first.
Yeah, but this is what it reminds me of, is the original Final Fantasy movie. It just seems so esoteric, over the top, agonizing, and indirect.
But it's also very, compared to Final Fantasy, it's so like dull and muddy.
Yep.
What the hell is that?
Well, quite obviously, it's a mobile suit, Quite obviously. I wouldn't... Ugh.
Sean, we need to give our allies some cover.
You didn't have to kill them.
This is war.
Doc.
You didn't have to. Yeah. Okay.
Sasorgan. What's your name?
Commander Heaton, ma'am. Second Lieutenant Heaton.
And then this happened. And I was like, the fuck happened to Camille? What happened? Because the only pink haired character that wears a bob like that is the psychic from Zeta. And I was like, Haman Khan, that's what it is. What happened to Haman? What is this? Like, that's face tattoos. That's the bull septum piercing in Gundam.
They put an activist in Gundam. Like, I know Netflix has had some activist shit going on over there for a minute, but oh boy.
Yeah, right. Like, this is who Zeon's like, yeah, we want you to go down to Earth. This is what we want the Federation to look at and fear us for.
You know what? I'm just thinking about this now. Like, you got the shaved head, you got the activists, and they're going up against the Federation. That actually kind of feels right.
Well, you're right. It is. Gundam's all about that. That's Gundam's thing. Is it agonizes over war. The meme is cool robots, but the meaning of the story is war is bad, and that's
But a war against activists like this and DEI, I mean.
Well, it does make you wonder what the message is here, right? It's like, if this is the Zeon,
like I was looking at this, I'm like thinking, Sunrise, are you not?
Did they forget? Did they forget that Zeon dropped 3 colonies on Earth and tried to drop 2 asteroid bases on it? Like, that's not the good guys.
I have to wonder if Sunrise, or like at least the director here, is just really annoyed at Netflix or something.
Yeah, right. Purposely trying to sink it.
I know Netflix and some of the manga and animators that they brought on had a falling out. I want to say last year. So that's why I'm like, damn, did this get made like during that?
Maybe this is somebody that was like one of the lawyers they had to deal with,
Yeah, that's true.
I'm Second Lieutenant Haley Arhan. First.
Oh, gosh.
That's a kid!
Oh, look, that's a dude. That is a dude.
Dude, Sunrise has it out for you, Netflix.
That is a man.
They have it out for Netflix with this. The activists must have really pissed them off.
Yeah, Tomino was like, no, we're gonna embarrass everybody involved with this. I'm sorry, but we're gonna embarrass everyone involved.
Armored infantry.
Wait! I'm a UMR.
Hold on, does she have neck tattoos? Wait a minute. Let's go back. She has neck tattoos. I think she has. Yeah, she has neck tattoos.
Who
She
the
has
hell
neck-
came over to,
She has a Zeonic
Sunrise and
neck
consulted
tattoo.
them?
That's
Who the hell
amazing.
did this?
I don't know. Like, I out of all the characters we saw, we got like Captain Side Cut, and now we got Commander face tattoos.
After this, we should show them like the trailer for Gundam Seed Freedom, so they could see what Gundam is supposed to look like.
Yeah, when they're actually proud of it. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, because you could tell they have disdain for this. You could tell based on who the main characters are. Oh, and how muddy it is and the movement. Yeah, they have disdain for this, and they have disdain for Netflix. They do not like them at all. It must have been during the Falling Out for sure.
Well,
Wait! I'm a UMRC!
I have no emotion in my eyes. I'm literally a PS2 QuickTime event.
Doctor! Is Red Wolf Squadron doing?
There's another settlement that needs your help.
Captain Zydos. Zaku 2, we're moving.
Yeah, Gundam. Vengeance for hashtags, apparently.
Yeah, that Requiem for Vengeance. Yeah, it's definitely vengeance upon Netflix. Because if you look at, hopefully you'll pull up the Gundam Sea Freedom.
I have it right here, yeah.
But because Fukuda, the director, he did this for his wife. His wife wrote the original screenplay, or was writing it, and she was sick at the time. And then she died back in, I think it was 2016. And it took this long. This was started in 2006, mind you, this whole project. And then his wife died in 2016, and then Fukuda like got together with the staff after the anniversary when it was announced for it was announced during like the 20th anniversary, I think it was. It was announced a couple years ago. Yeah. And they said they were coming together and they were going to finish what, his wife started. And Fukuda said that he put his heart and soul into this for his wife. So you'll see it in the animation. You'll be able to tell that that the love and the soul that's in this.
Well, that's the thing, is that a lot of Americans don't know this, especially Gundam fans, is that Seed is amazingly popular in Japan. And I personally don't like it. It doesn't tickle my ribs, you know what I mean? But I can accept that they like it, DZ3 says, I think I will take a look at Gundam even though I was not interested. I remember from what I've seen of it, Gundam was colorful. This is very dark and dull in colors. Well, as we're about to see, this is what Gundam is supposed to look like when they care about it, when there's passion involved. Oh, look at that color. How about that?
Yes, look how pretty it is. There's no tattoos. There's no piercings.
That's a woman.
That's a woman right there. Look at the Gundam battles here. Look at that Gundam battle right there. That gunfire was just beautiful compared to what we just saw in Vengeance. Look at that.
Yep.
Oh.
This is all animated. I mean, it may not be hand animated, but it is all animated, so.
Yeah.
Again, you saw all this color, right immediately. Look at all that.
That's so pretty.
Look at
that compared to what we just saw in Requiem.
Mm-hmm.
That is an explosion. What we saw there was, I don't know what that was. But I mean, also
DZ3
too.
Yeah, as DZ3 says, yes, this is what I remember. It's colorful, not dull colors. Exactly. What do you know when the Americans aren't stinking it up?
Oh, the Gundams look so good here.
They went and redid the coordinators. I like their uniforms better than the original series. This is much. I feel the Code Geass on this. This is also feels pretty Code Geass-y, so this is nice. This is nice. You see, in my opinion, Gundam suffered the most from the we don't draw robots anymore phenomenon. Because what really made like Gundam Wing sell so well here in the US was just how dynamic the animation was. While the story was really bizarre, to say the least, the animation was through the roof. It was not as great as and not Endless Waltz, the other one. Stardust Requiem. That wasn't as well animated. Gundam Wing wasn't as well done as that, but man, that's what sold American audiences on that, especially when Wing Zero would power up and you'd see like the green orb in its chest like sparkle or whatever, and you'd be like, whoa, it's time for it to use its big gun attack. But they don't do it, like you were saying earlier, everything's very stiff. And I know a machine should be stiff, but
Gundam wasn't like that at all.
Right. And it's really suffered from using the 3D assets in place of the drawn stuff. And I know that would slow down production on everything to a crawl, but some things are worth it,
I mean, especially with a project like this, where, Fukuda is doing it for his late wife who wrote Gundam Seed with him, like both seasons of Gundam Seed, and started, the writing for this. I mean, you'd think there would be a little bit more in the fluidity.
And Seed is so huge in Japan. Like this would be the one that they like, aside from the UC with Amuro, this would be the one that they would really put their back into. Because again, apart from the UC, this is the next most popular one. So. Like that's just that is just great. Like this is a Toonami shot right here.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, like this is like the perfect like thumbnail for like a Gundam video is right here.
Right, exactly. You
So
know, and
pretty.
they just nail it every time. And as you can see, these are not 3D assets right here in this. This is an actual drawn interaction between these two machines, and it looks so much better.
I love this the song for it too. It's so good.
And you know, again, they're not screwing around with this. They're you know they're really throwing their back into it, and it makes me so envious. I wish Gundam Wing was popular over there, so they do this with Wing instead of just giving us like a motion comic for Frozen Teardrop.
Yeah, it's just, you know, they put their back into it for a reason. They did it for one of the writers who didn't make it, and you could see it. You could see it there. And Fukuda was saying it was hard to get this done emotionally.
Mm.
And he was just
You
he
can
kept
feel
trying to, yeah, he kept trying to think like what would my wife want to do with this? What would she want to do with this? Like he wanted to, achieve her vision.
Well, and we'll take a little bit of break from all these trailers to talk about something that is kind of some good news. We've been talking about this evening about how the Japanese seem to be doing it better than the Americans, especially Gundam. Well, here's some good news. We have the director of Godzilla Minus One, Takashi Namazaki, who has already signed with Hollywood CCA for representation. So he'll be joining Hollywood's directors, hopefully.
Well, something I did see, and I think I wrote about it. I wrote about when I was when the Parasite trailer came out, is that Yamazaki is actually the one that directed the first Parasite live action adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you could tell in the effects, like if you look at Godzilla and you look at like Parasite and you could see like the fluidity, you could see like the realism and how it doesn't feel so out of place.
Right. You put this guy on the My Hero Academia American adaptation, and I'll probably give it a try. I might actually pay money to see it rather than finding it laying on the ground on the internet.
Well, the Kingdom director Shinsuke Sato is working on it, so he's done a lot. He's done obviously Kingdom, Golden Kamui he just did, Bleach he worked on. There's another one off the top of my head that I know, but I can't remember. But yeah, he's worked on really big manga to anime or manga to live action projects before. And usually with those, he does have the mangaka involved because Kubo was involved with the Bleach live action. Noda was very heavily involved with Golden Kamui, and Hara is heavily involved in Kingdom. And he also brings along with him the writer for the One Piece anime movies like Film Red and Stampede. So that's why those movies are so good. I really would like that writer to be with them too. Oh, it'd be so awesome. If he has that writer with him, then My Hero Academia will be good. But if it doesn't, then I would be kind of scared.
Well, as you reported over on Bounding Into Comics, maybe where this guy handles giant battles pretty well, maybe he'll get a shot at Macross if it ends up being successful on its Disney and Hulu Plus release.
Yeah. We talked about it this last week briefly, I think, that Harmony Gold is still being complete jackasses, that we can't get the first actual Macross, the original Macross can't come over here still because Harmony Gold's a bunch of bastards. But yeah, the rest of the Macrosses will be available on Disney Plus, Star worldwide, and then Hulu in the US. More than likely Hulu. They haven't formally announced it, but yeah, usually that's the case. It'll be on Hulu in the US. But something they did at the Disney Plus panel was they actually had a concert there with who was it? One of the protagonists sang some of the popular songs from Macross. I just can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it was really good, and everyone in the chat was crying. They were so happy. But
Well, and this is what's to note is that this is the first time that Macross has had an international release. Here in the US, we have never legally had all of the Macross anime available here. And even then, it's not all going to be here. As we see right here, Do You Remember Love will not be part of it, but that might make the other movies very confusing. But we'll find out. You know, maybe they found a way around it. They did some fancy editing to make sure it's not too confusing.
Probably not. Harmony, I just don't. Oh, Harmony Gold was so stupid. So after Macross got announced, they were trying to do some like fake interactions and like try to boost their post on the announcement for Disney Plus, and their account got hit with a limited restriction.
Wow, that's cringe.
Yeah, it was on the Robocross account specifically, and that's from Harmony Gold.
Pain.
Feels like
DZ3,
major
what's
karma.
that? DZ3 says, speaking of Godzilla, I'm going to watch the new one next week. I knew I wouldn't really hate it since my standards for Godzilla are pretty much the same, lol. As long as they don't say anything stupid, it will not increase. Yeah, well, the Godzilla movie from Japan is again very highly regarded over there. It went so well that they re-released it in black and white. It was so well. So I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it, as everyone that I know who is a lifelong Godzilla fan thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It brought them back because it uses miniature sets again. It's not the CGI environment of Fat Godzilla from America.
No.
This is a dude in a rubber suit stomping around a scene in a few of these shots, and it uses the Ultraman filming technique that we see in the show, where it overlays the giant footage with the street footage very well, and it makes it look like everything is blended well together. So
yeah, that's something we've seen. Like you see it in Sentai, you see it in you see it like
it's really only been the past 5 years, and it was because Ultraman's director left Ultraman, not because anything was bad. He just decided he wanted to do Sentai and Kamen Rider for a little while. And the visual, he was a cinematographer for this. He brought it over, and just Sentai has exploded with this concept of having the giant robot battles in the background and having the heroes on a rooftop fighting the villain in the foreground. And it is metal. It is so metal.
Sounds like it.
But speaking of metal, we've got Netflix Japan's brand new lineup for, I believe, the spring. Is this the spring lineup?
This is good. There's a little bit for fall. In the case of Beastars, it's coming out like sometime this year. We don't know if it's going to be. It's not spring. It's going to be probably by the end of the year.
All right, let's see what they got.
Yeah, there's a lot more series. Here's the thing. There's a lot more series coming to Netflix. And when I see this and see all the footage, it's like, yeah, it really is making me think of Crunchyroll's COO, what Perini was saying about Netflix being like, wants to use Netflix as a gateway to Crunchyroll. And I'm still baffled. I'm like, why won't you just do theatrical releases? Do more. Do extended theatrical releases. You will get people on your platform that way, but guess not.
Pain. Netflix, different from what we saw with Disney Plus, appears to be going for more of kind of a Miyazaki tilt. They're going a bit more heartfelt with their anime than, high action, I guess, high intensity.
Well, Disney Plus has like a good mixture. Like Heavenly Delusion, for example, is, as I said, abstract, but it gets very, very deep at times too. I mean, like they talk about how there's like a colony of like psycho feminists that feminist Karens really that will chop boobs off of big breasted women that go there. It's serious. Like you see like crazy stuff up in there too. But yeah.
It's a golf anime. How
Yeah,
about
there's
that?
there's a couple of them, but Netflix, well, manga anyway. But yeah, they're bringing a golf anime here to Netflix.
Yuki?
Oh yeah, I think that's Delicious in Dungeon, which is very popular. Dungeon Meshi.
Yeah, again, here in the US it's also taken off.
Yeah.
I have Ramsey's Kitchen Nightmares to thank for that. I hope at some point that they do an insert character of like some grand knight who's like Gordon. He's just completely insufferable, but he's right.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. There's Ultraman Rising.
Yeah,
I hate what they did with Ultraman, because if you've read the Ultraman manga, and I'm talking about the newer one, the sequel manga, it's so beautiful. All the line work and the shading in there to give that 3D effect. It's so beautiful, and to see like this CGI be used on it really irritates the hell out of me.
Well, at least it's not the American one. You remember the American Ultraman? That was just disgusting.
Oh god.
You know, I'm so glad that he's like Ultraman in this and not some weird armored knight guy, you know?
Yeah. Well, actually, that's the sequel manga. Actually, is the Armored Knight, but I did not. That's the one I was talking about. That I did not like seeing that CGI for. That's the sequel manga that I was talking about. But yeah,
yeah. Of course, that's better executed than the CGI in that one. This one is definitely way better done. But it is.
It's a lot more fluid. It's not so stiff.
Yeah. Why are they using CGI? Well, specifically Bayona is because since Kiyoani went under, there have been a lot of pressure on animators to perform. Like, I don't know if you know this or not, but they make $10,000 a year. They have to live in dormitories. If you're an animator in Japan, it is because you're obsessed. It is not because you're in it to make any money or live comfortably even. It is because you're obsessed. And that's why they're using the CGIs, because there just isn't bodies to do this stuff.
Well, there's also here's what I heard from Maki, the VP president, the vice president of IGN. They said that they've been using more CGI. It's been integrating more and more into anime because of Toy Story, the original Toy Story. That's when the animator shortage really started, is because of that.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we're looking at the fruits of this now, where the East and the West are slowly becoming indistinguishable from each other thanks to CGI. The distinct nature of anime, what it does, how it moves, how it treats light even, is being cheated by how CGI kind of, I don't know, normalizes that look across all of the mediums that want to use it. And so the uniqueness of Japanese animation is kind of lost when it comes to CGI.
Well, there's actually one studio that's starting to really change things up, and I'm hoping it's going to get adopted around the industry, and that's Trigger. And what Trigger is doing is they are bringing in new recruits, and they are training the animators, and they're making sure they have good personality too, because they don't want someone that's really toxic and like
burns the place down.
Well, not just that, but it causes like people to want to quit because of an unhealthy work environment. So they're doing that right now. They're at like 60% of their anime is done in-house. They're working on trying to get it to 100%, but that requires getting, the animators trained. The other thing is there's something called lines, and in terms of like how many series they're taking in. And right now, Trigger is only doing like one line at a time, because they want to make sure it is like perfect. And this is compared to, if you compare like Trigger series to like, say, a JC Staff anime where they're just taking in a ton, or Mappa, you could tell the difference between like a really beautiful anime from Trigger, or David Productions does this too, or David Productions, and then compare it to like something from like JC Staff or a Mappa studio, and you'll see the difference. it's incredible to see what Trigger's doing, and I'm hoping the rest of this industry starts adapting it.
Well, and right now we're seeing a lot of push for Ultraman. Like Bayona Rad says here, when we see the last anime version of Ultraman, probably not for a while.
It's been Ultraman. We're talking 2D animation, right? Because we have the 3D with this adaptation of the manga, but if we're talking like 2D, it's been years.
It was before Gridman, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was before Gridman got an anime that they were doing that. But this is the other thing, is that once again, because of the Japanese population shrinking so much, the available pool of talent is so small. So guys that are like in their 60s are doing these tokusatsu shows because they're the only ones that know how to do the body movements anymore. They're the only ones that know how to like work around being in a stilted fiberglass giant robot suit and not end up dead falling over in it, you know? And that it's just such a tragedy at the moment what's gone on with Japanese entertainment. It's not any fault of their own, really. It's just that the nation itself doesn't have people to produce this stuff. And that's why you're going to see more of stuff like this, CGI. But also, tokusatsu itself is likely going to transition into being an animated property because there's just not bodies. There's just not enough bodies to make this stuff anymore.
It's really sad.
Right, and maybe it's good because Japan's going through this heat death of creativity the way Hollywood is, so maybe this, like, reliance on CGI will train up people who want to be passionate about live action again, who will go out and make the necessary changes to make it work.
That is true. Something I am hoping with Ranger Rejects adaptation is that I'm hoping that it will get more people interested in wanting to work with Sentai, because the way Ranger Reject has really like changed the perspective of Sentai is just incredible. It's really fucked up, mind you, but it's really, really interesting. So I'm hoping that helps, but we'll see.
Night Shroud says, I love how fan service, which brought these people revenue, will ultimately be their downfall with their poop takes. Well, and you're right. The Japanese Communist Party has really bitten off more than they can chew. And this might turn into Weeb Wars too. It's boiling up. We'll get into that in a little bit.
We'll get to that because this is the UN stuff. This stems like back like at least over a year ago. So.
And like we saw earlier with this trailer, it is grungy, it is dark. I get Saving Ryan, Private Ryan from this.
Like a video game version of it, or like SOCOM on PS2.
Yeah, like a little bit of COD going on here. I get that feeling because it doesn't feel Gundam. You're right. It doesn't feel like Gundam. It feels like an American war movie that they stuffed giant robots into.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I mean, we saw the activists that look up in Gundam, and I'm just like, I'm telling you, Sunrise has to sting for Netflix.
Good. Based Tomino. We'll see Beastar's full trailer here in a little bit too, but it's good to see them back again. And as you mentioned, this is a CGI animated one as well.
Yeah, Orange specializes in CGI, and they are the best in the biz. If you've seen like Trigun Stampede, some of the animation on that, oh my god, it's incredible what they can do with action sequences. But my favorite by far, Hoseki no Kuni is the best by far, especially with what they did to get the movements to be so fluid, was they used rotoscope.
Okay. Well, and again, I mean, like, as Night Shroud points out, too much pandering to America does that. And you're right, it does do that. But this right here is demonstrative of what can be done with a collaboration between both sides. Beastars is very popular in the U.S. It's been one of Netflix's breakout successes on the platform, along with Seven Deadly Sins. So
the manga is, I covered Beastar's manga up into its end. It is so good. I can't wait to see what Melon looks like, the villain of this arc, or of the final parts, because he gives like very Joker energy. And he's a mixture of leopard and antelope, I think it was. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, wait till we get to that, and wait till we get to like the riots outside of the out of the meat district. Oh man, that's gonna be very powerful.
ちゃんと幸せな家庭生活を送るのが目標なんです。離れろ!
Oh yeah,
Detective
Conan's coming. The new Conan movie, from what I heard, the new Conan movie is coming to Netflix. Bride of Halloween, which is the newest one. Is coming to Netflix. If the rest of Detective Conan comes to Netflix, Crunchyroll is in huge trouble. They're already in trouble because One Piece is heading over there. But if Detective Conan goes over there,
if you don't know, Detective Conan is about a teenage detective that's like a world-class Sherlock Holmes super detective being reduced by a criminal enterprise to a child. He has the mind of the semi-adult teenage crime fighter, but he is stuck in the body of a 5-year-old. And so he has a very difficult time getting his youthful compatriots to assist him in stopping crimes that he, with his semi-adult mind, knows is wrong. And of course, hijinks ensues with all the crazy things that children get into trying to stop crime. And it's an instant classic. I defy you not to fall in love with it by episode 5. It is just so warm and wonderful. And most of the time, nobody dies.
Well, actually, there's a lot of people that die because there's a lot of murders. But okay.
I mean, like the Conan doesn't kill people. Let's put it that way. He doesn't go around killing people.
He doesn't do that. But what I call Detective Conan, I call it like the MacGyver of anime because of what Conan does to solve the crimes. It's very MacGyver-esque because it's like the most random things put together to like solve the mystery. It's just so funny.
It's one of the his primary 7 or 8. My bad. He's 7 or 8 years old, so he's a little older than Shin-chan.
Yeah, he's an elementary school kid, and up at the first 1,000 chapters, I think it was like up to 1,019. That's only the prologue. We're like in part 1 now. We're like in the past 1,100 now, I believe. But yeah, what Ayama has said is Ayama wants to make like the longest manga. He wants to have the most chapters possible, and that's going to be hard to beat because Hajime no Ippo is ahead of him. By like a couple hundred chapters, I think, because we're at like 1,450. Yeah, we're at 1,450 in Hajime no Ippo. So he's got a lot. Ayama's got a long way to go. But something that he did say, and still sticks, it's been sticking with me for a while, is that even when he was hospitalized, you know, he's drawing manga because he likes to draw. It's not because of the editorial department. No, he likes to draw, and a lot of manga could do this. They like to draw, so even if they're in the hospital, they will just continue drawing because that's what they like to do.
What a surprise! Okay, this is massive. I don't know if you guys know about this. I know you're probably looking at this like, oh, this is for kids. Pokemon Concierge will rip your heart out. It will rip your heart out in the best way possible. It is not a sad one. It's just one of those feel-good, people doing good things. Like, your whole family can watch this and everybody will get something out of this. Like, as usual, the Pokemon story is wonderful, but this in particular has, especially with the stop-motion claymation animation, it's just been so... Oh, it feels good. It feels really good. I'm sorry. I just love this so much.
Bass, doesn't it? Like old school Rack and Bass cartoons.
But every character is like true to itself. Psyduck is a usual Psyduck, oafish idiot character that just kind of wants to help, but is mostly confused by the whole process. It's so, and of course the character that's involved in this is just so happy to have this job that allows her to interact with people this way. And man, I don't know, like, if you're looking for a first date, like, icebreaker stuff to put on while you're talking, this is so good. It just instant good feels. Like, I would think that, we were just talking, Miyazaki. I would think Miyazaki would look at this and be like, okay, I don't hate anime as much as I used to. You know? This is just so helpful. It's so wonderful. They should show this at the UN. Everybody won't be mad anymore. They'll all be like, yeah, we like Pokemon. But, yeah, again, like these drawing is not only a profession, but it's also a therapy.
It is.
When a lot of artists will tell you that what first got them into drawing was the frustration of not being able to visualize an idea or trying to like communicate an idea in a more effective way, efficient way. And so out of necessity to comfort their own passion, people become artists. And this is what mangaka really, what drives them to become so worldwide renowned, is because it is all that they really like fires them up. Toriyama talked about this, that he didn't really watch the anime, the Dragon Ball anime, Dragon Ball Z anime. He was just engrossed in the manga of it, and he was reading everybody else's manga all the time. And he made no bones about this.
Of mangaka. I mean,
he made no bones about
current generation of mangaka. It's because of him. And they said something. He said is that they would try to copy Toriyama's Dragon Ball designs, and that's what got them into drawing.
Mm-hmm. And again, like he changed manga at the time, and I say it wrong because I'm a Northeaster, but manga at the time when Toriyama showed up was just like joke comics. Yeah. It wasn't stuff that was meant to teach children anything. It was just meant to pass the time. And if anything, it was kind of over the top ridiculous, like Looney Tunes level stuff. So there was no moral to it. It was just, haha, that thing happened to that character. How funny, the end. And,
well, it was also looked down upon too if you read manga. That's something that Oda was emphasizing on how important Toriyama was to him, was that at that time when he was getting into drawing, it was at a time when he was inspired by Toriyama, because Toriyama was drawing at a time when manga was looked down upon. If you were into it, then you got bullied for it. Yep.
But, here again, I mean, we as fans in 2024 owe a lot to Toriyama, and it'll take a long time for that tally to get revealed of just how deep his influence went with just about everything that shaped our interest in the East. I mean, even China credits him. Like the Chinese state media came out and acknowledged Toriyama's death. Like Japan and China don't like each other. This goes back centuries, let alone the abuses of World War II. And so this is massive to have them come out and recognize a private citizen. Okay, that's the effect that Xi Jinping, the guy that runs China, had to approve that. That wasn't just some random guy who was like, oh yes, we need to let them know Toriyama died. That was Xi Jinping like, no, put the brakes on whatever we're talking about today and let them know that the greatest mangaka that ever lived has passed away. And that's what they called him in China, was the greatest mangaka that ever lived. Amazing.
Yeah, you saw the painting that they did in Peru, right?
Yeah, gosh, it's still making it. They're still adding stuff to it.
It's incredible. I think it's like 40 artists working on it at least. Yeah,
it's almost a mile long. Ah.
Okay, so there's a Kengan versus Baki crossover, and I'm kind of looking forward to it because mangaka do follow me, and I talk to Daromion on a regular basis. He's so awesome. And he loves drawing Western properties too. So like at the end of the year, and Bounding retweeted it, at the end of the year, he will post like a collage of like the past year's events, and he will include Western events too. So like, I think it was like in 2022, I think it was, he drew Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. That was included in the collage. It's incredible what he does. But I'm really looking forward to see, because now you got the Baki fans coming after the Kengan fans, and the Kengan fans are just looking at them like, no, you are not beating Homa. You are not being the Asura. But oh yeah, speaking of, there's a second season of, or not second, I think it's third season now, right? Of Kengan Asura. More Kengan Asura is coming too.
Oh. DZ3 says, in fact, Japan is disliked all over the East and Southeast of Asia, but by older generation. Younger generation are more accepting towards them. And yeah, well, we know why. It's because during World War II and leading up to that, the Japanese imperialist reach was very brutal. Very, very brutal. And this came out of their constant conflicts with Korea over 1,000 years. And these people, very warlike when we encountered them as the U.S. when we first like made contact with them to begin with as our own nation. And so we we reformed them. I'm sorry. I know that sounds kind of, I don't know, egotistical, but the U.S. literally wrote Japan's constitution and said, you will not be fighting anymore. You're allowed to defend yourself. And up until a year ago, Japan kept on that. But now with the threat of China and North Korea, they are arming themselves again. But Big Brother US is there to remind them not to get too excited and build a Gundam. You know, they need to.
Well, they do have a Gundam there, though.
Another one that can fight. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that drives this about the older generation is that it was right up until World War II that Japan was just absolutely horrendous on the Pacific. Every Pacific nation had a horrible relationship with Japan up until America took care of that problem. But that's why. And the younger generation likes them because Japan came back from World War II and said, we're not going to do that again. We're never going to be those people again. And they have spent the past 80 years repenting for everything that led up to that point. And that's why people like
Great
it.
Art came out of it too. I mean,
Right.
Astro Boy came out of if it wasn't for Astro Boy, you wouldn't have any anime.
That was because of Disney. It was because Walt Disney inspired them so much that they were like, we want to be the entertainers of the world too. I love that Japan's our little brother. I love it. I love that.
It's just I just still think it's wild that the biggest market for anime and manga outside of Japan is France.
Right, and it's so
So
wrong.
random.
Oh, it's so wrong. The U.S. should be like eating this stuff up. We should be shaking hands with Japan. Like, yes, we need more anime adaptations over here. We need to be making more American media for Japan. We need to be raising our kids like we raise your kid, like you raise your kids. You know.
Well, American animation did have like the family-based stuff for a while. I mean, the emphasis on family, like when we were growing up, that's
Right.
when it was in the 90s and early 2000s. Now it's just a completely different story.
Agenda.
It's all agenda.
What surprises me about Netflix's choices here is that these don't feel like they're heavy-handed, ideologically driven stuff. It feels just, this is a neat idea, so we brought it.
But some of the stuff that is on Netflix, Japan or Asian Netflix is not available in the US, and some that's not available in Europe is not available in the US either. So there's that too. Oh, I'm so mad at Record of Ragnarok. What they did to that manga. Oh, if you've not read Record of Ragnarok manga, why? You should. If you want a good combat tournament series, especially if you're like a huge mythological nerd like I am, Record of Ragnarok is incredible. But yeah, Record of Ragnarok and Kengan are like my favorite tournament series right now. They are so good.
So there you go. There is a selection from Netflix this 2024. So far, they may end up picking up more things as they go because Japan has this wonderful habit because of the way corporate things work is they keep things sealed up until they're ready to just explode with all of the promotional stuff. They don't let stuff leak out.
Well, yeah, there's also, I don't know why they didn't put it in there, but Dan to Dan is on Netflix. It's going to be on Netflix worldwide. Black Clover is coming to Netflix. I know that. There's a few more series that are coming to Netflix that were like, they were already on Hulu and Crunchyroll. If it was just Crunchyroll, I'd be worried for you, Crunchyroll, but they were on Hulu too. So it's like kind of, but yeah, like My Hero Academia is coming over there. What was the other one? I just had it on the top of my head and I just forgot. Dang it. There's Chainsaw Man's coming over there. That's right. Now I remember. It's Chainsaw Man and My Hero Academia. And I think, Jujutsu Kaisen has already been over there. But yeah, those two I know are newer.
I wouldn't say that it was manga and anime alone, Bayona Rad. What really saved Japan was the U.S. handing them a corporate lifestyle. As horrible as it's treated them, the Japanese completely conformed to the idea of building business relationships over building wartime relationships, if you will. And so I wouldn't say that it was anime and manga. It was really the US saying, like, this is an office building. This is where you're going to live now.
Oh God, a new version. No, Netflix is not doing a new version of Berserk that I know of. I would be so pissed if
It's
they
just
were.
One Piece so far.
Yeah, it's just the One Piece reboot. The reboots that definitely need to happen, in my opinion, and they're on their 10th year anniversaries, are Tokyo Ghoul, and which a project was announced for, but no reboot announcement yet, and Twin Star Exorcist. Those are the two that need to reboot the most. And also, D. Gray Man is on its 20th anniversary, but that one needs a reboot too.
Well, DZ3, we're seeing it happen again. Corporate Japan is stepping in and filling the funding gaps with ESG leaving Japan. And so it just dawned on me the other day how many cars are in Super Sentai right now. They've done another car Sentai. This is 2 years after the Kira Major. They came out with Boon Boonjer. But I noticed that Boon Boonjer is not using stylized vehicles. If you take a look at the vehicles they're using in, and we'll get into it in another episode where I'll break it down. Tonight's too busy. But in Boon Boonjer, the vehicles they're using as their giant robot are like vehicles you'll see on the road in Japan. There's like a Toyota SUV. There's like some Nissan pickup truck in it. And these are just like, they're mild. They're like the concept car look of the vehicles, that they're not like the road ready versions. And I was just like, so that's what happened. They went over to TV Asahi and they were like, okay, we're going to give you a bunch of money to continue making Super Sentai now that ESG has left you high and dry. In exchange, we're going to hand you a bunch of concept art that we have for vehicles we never put on the road, and you're going to make a giant robot out of them so we can market these things to adults through the children's show. And guess what they're doing? In the middle of Super Sentai, you have an SUV commercial that reminds you your children are going to die unless you buy this giant vehicle.
It's actually a genius strategy if you think about it, though.
Yeah, and that, again, it's working out so well. Like I can't wait until we start seeing like more product placement in anime. Like I know it's really crappy in the US, but in Japan they make it so charming. It's always so friendly when they do it. It's not intrusive like Tony Stark pulling a Burger King burger out of his pocket in the middle of a scene.
No. You saw the McDonald's stuff, though. I mean,
it's cringe.
That was cringe compared to what McDonald's is doing. KFC has done some really cool stuff too, like the Colonel Sanders video game.
Yeah, and they had RoboCop Colonel Sanders. We'll have to go over the Japanese commercials in a future episode. They're wild. The Japanese commercials for American products and Japanese commercials using American actors. Wait till you see what Bruce Willis used to get up to in Japan. But speaking of things that are cringe, the Japanese Communist Party encourages members to report fan service manga to the UN. I'm not sure why the UN would care about this, but the Japanese Communist Party believes that this is an abuse of women that's happening in manga, that the unfair portrayal of top-heavy women or voluptuous women is curtailing the free expression of women who are not so endowed. And their plan is to, this is an expose on it, produced by Lo Ping. He's a Japanese Twitter user. And just pop over here to Twitter. I want to make sure my messages don't pop up. There we go.
Well, here's the thing with the UN. This is why the UN is because the UN women got involved with Tawawa on Monday, or Getsuyobi no Tawawa, and because she was on the cover, or not on the cover. She was in one of the newspapers for the advertising the new volume, and that's when it caused controversy, and people at the women's division of the UN had issue, and they said that because she has like G cups, they're huge breasts. They're saying that this is like over sexualizing a minor and stuff like that. It was so ridiculous, but the UN is just a freaking joke. They can't stop the genocide happening in Myanmar, which has been happening for like 2 years now, I believe. 2 or 3 years now. They have there's the other one in Tigray too that's been happening for forever now as well. So it's like you want to go to the UN, who hasn't done crap to help stop any of the genocides that are happening, or what was the other thing that I was getting out?
Well, the Epstein Island people haven't been
there's
dealt
that
with.
too. But the UN hasn't done shit in like how long?
Ever.
Them,
it's never done anything. The UN has never done anything. The US has always been the one that has to take action.
Or NATO too. There's NATO.
That's true. Well. But the UN has been absolutely useless even before its inception when they were talking about it. All it is just a money laundering operation to get people together so they can abuse people in other countries, particularly the US. New Yorkers will tell you there is an endless list of grievances with people who come from outside of this country that have diplomatic immunity, like Lethal Weapon. Remember that? Lethal Weapon with Mel Gibson? They come here and they cause these horrible crimes and they could just leave. Because we can't touch them because the UN says, no, they're dignitaries. They're special. And now we find out that P. Diddy is supplying them with after-party entertainment, you know?
Yeah. But yeah.
The UN's concerned about anime boobs.
Yeah. And then there's also, you have China and Russia that are on the security panel. They have a permanent spot in the UN security panel. And then the other thing is just look at the Human Rights Committee and the Women's Rights Committee. For fuck's sakes, Iran was the head of the Women's Rights Committee for a minute before the backlash caused them to be like, okay, that's probably
brain dead takes. Brain dead takes. But a little earlier we had DZ3 Acid Weeb Wars 2. There was a first one. Wow, how many wars are we having now recently to save culture? First it was pop culture, then it was gaming, now it's anime. Well, this is the thing.
It's been happening for a long time. I mean,
all of these are happening. These are just fronts of the singular culture war that's happening pretty much globally. That's it,
Well, if you're on Twitter, you'll see, especially if you're like on anime Twitter, like and manga Twitter, like I am, you will see psycho Zoomers try to treat these fictional characters like they are real. And they will call like artists or fans like Lolicon or Shotacon, they will call them, pedos, because lollies and Shota are younger kids. So yeah, they're drawings of younger kids, mind you. But yeah, they will call them pedophiles. I've seen them, they're stupid tourists. They're attacking the Seven Deadly Sins / 4 Nights of the Apocalypse mangaka Nakaba because Bond got with a lolly, 1,000-year-old or hundreds of year old fairy, mind you, and they were all pissy. I knew it was going to happen too when they got to Jericho declaring her love for Lancelot. I knew it was going to happen. It happened when the chapter came out. But these people that are complaining about it, they are tourists. They don't know anything. They don't read the series. They've never read Nanatsu no Taizai, or they've never even touched Four Nights of the Apocalypse either. So it's like, these people are just ridiculous. But yeah, Zoomers are psycho. I mean, look at what happened with One Piece, when Oda wouldn't make Yamato trans. There, you had that going on. You've seen
still going on.
Not as bad as it was before. There's been death threats, I think, sent to Horikoshi over a couple of color spreads because they are underage girls looking sexy, and I'm just like, dude, they're not real. They're just drawings. Like, why aren't you worried about the actual child actors that were sexually abused that you see on Child on the set or Quiet on the Set? Like, why aren't you?
Yeah, Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon.
Yeah, why aren't you focusing on them? Why aren't you trying to fight and save them? Why are you going after drawings that don't exist? It just makes no sense.
Well, I'm not for that kind of stuff. I don't want it censored, mind you, in the sense that people who do it have to be like harmed or in prison. It's just not my style, so I can't speak to it. But what they're chiefly going after in this is fan service, not like lolly stuff. That's not even a part of the conversation. What's insidious? Did you read this report? I don't want to talk over you. Did you read this?
I know what they're talking about. Yeah, I've seen it. I know exactly what I didn't even need to read it to know, because I've covered a couple of incidents with the Japanese Communist Party. They are basically like the flat-chested Karen in Fire Force that wanted Tamaki to cover up.
Yep.
That's what they are.
Well, this Yiching Lao brings up with, I wonder why people such as Anita Sarkeesian and others love censorship in media so much. Well, what's ironic about this whole situation is that in 2021, the Japanese Communist Party ran for office under the platform, or rather on the platform, of no censorship. To not censor media, to not censor people's expressions, to not censor people on social media, to not censor them in protest, to not censor them in their way they decorate their cars even. And in Japan, it's very different. Some of these things are frowned upon. Having obnoxious attire is like when you dress yourself obnoxiously is something that is societally frowned upon. So they had like a bit of the youth on board with this. And then they do this. And what's more insidious about this is it's not out in the open. The Japanese Communist Party circulate a magazine, and in that magazine, there's a QR code for your phone that when you scan it, it takes you to a questionnaire about all of the convenience stores you've been in recently that sell manga that exploits women, quote, exploits women in it. And in that, they're collecting these reports to send to the UN that the Japanese media masters have a discrepancy toward treating women as sexual objects, and thus it's a human rights violation, and the UN must get involved. And I feel Rahm Emanuel's presence on this. I feel Rahm Emanuel's dirty fingers. He's the U.S. ambassador right now over there.
They hate him over there. Oh my God, they hate him.
And this feels like Rahm Emanuel reaching out to the Japanese Communist Party to create a dialogue in Japan about big boobs in children's media. And
it's
that's what they're going to do.
It's not just him. He has an alliance going on with like some Western Europeans too, I believe. But
absolutely. He's an absolute turd burglar. No doubt about it. And what gets even worse about this is that they're not even trying to go after shonen manga like My Hero Academia or Blue Lock or any other one that has like a girl character who's top heavy in it, right? Not even One Piece. They're trying to go after seinen manga, which is meant for adults. Mm-hmm. So of all places where you're supposed to have big boobs to entertain adults, it's insane. And no, they want to make sure that they secretly send all this data to the UN so the people in the UN who are totally removed from Japanese culture can pass judgment on them.
I mean, as I said, you could go look at my Bounding into Comics article and you'll see it. You'll see how psycho these people are. What they flipped out over a cover of Tawawa on Monday. She has big boobs. She wasn't even like flaunting it like that. She was like kind of like in a cutesy pose, and she was covered up, and they still had a fit. These people are not pro women, and I've said this multiple times, and I'm gonna keep saying it. The feminists that say that women are going to unite, they are lying. It will never happen, and it's because of women like this. Because we women hate each other. We do. And you have flat-chested, insecure Karens that really, really hate sexy women, especially.
Yeah, and we just had this conversation over here in the West, where we're having it right now, where Microsoft publishes a new inclusion guide for video game devs, recommends against creating female characters with exaggerated body proportions. Well, how about that?
Women have exaggerated body proportions, though. I mean... Yeah. We have breasts, we have butts. Well, I don't have as much of a butt as some of the other, but you know what I mean. But we do have these things. And I know that they're trying to appease, they're saying they're trying to appease, trans people. They're not. They're doing it because they're insecure as fuck. If you see some of these people working on these projects, you'll know. They're like the people that we saw in Gundam, basically. They are very insecure. Yep. And they are taking it out on media, and it's the ironic thing is they say that tell people to stop body shaming. They are the biggest body shamers that I have ever seen. New wave feminists are the biggest body shamers you will see in your life.
Yes. Yep. Matthew Gadet says, I was no fan of the former prime minister, but his assassination made him a martyr. Shinzo Abe. Yes. Shinzo Abe has a strange story outside of Japan. If you know him inside, it's even weirder. But outside of Japan, he's really misrepresented. A lot of people took his quotes about anime, where he didn't believe that adult men should be engaging in it, out of context.
Yeah.
He was talking about otakus, and these are the people that are like in their 40s, like doing cosplay at conventions, and they are just totally, their whole life revolves around this process. They've not had children, which again was Shinzo Abe's greatest mission, was to get Japan funky again, and go into funky town.
Yeah.
And so he saw it as a great deterrence because he was seeing young men getting married to pillows. He was seeing this. He talked about this in what amounts to the State of the Union address that he would give Parliament, is that the culture itself was so rotted around this because of what I mentioned earlier, the 20 years that they had spent convincing young men and women that they shouldn't have children. And he says that it worked.
Here. Well, this is what we're seeing here in the U.S. They're trying to do this here. And it really irritates me, and I'm hoping we're going to get another actual women's movement happening. Because when they say a real one, because when they say, and this is why first and second wave feminists hate these bitches, is when they say over sexualization and male gaze, it's like, dude, that's what the original women's movement fought for, was sexual liberation. It's not over sexualizing male gaze. Nah, this is sexual liberation. And hell, why are you just thinking that they're doing it for a man? They might be doing it for themselves, for all you know. And and they're also forgetting that lesbians and bisexuals do exist, and they like pretty women too.
Well, and again, I mean, we're looking at this from the Western perspective. In Japan, they have a massively different relationship with this because they've preserved their traditional culture. So women do like being sexualized to a degree.
Yeah.
There's always stuff that's overboard, the creepy uncle stuff that China talks about a lot. There's always people that go over the line. But I'll give you this example. If you don't know, in Japan, men often spend like 6 months away from their family living in dormitories in the cities if they can't afford like a house there or a permanent dwelling in the city. So their home will be like in the suburbs of the country, and they'll spend 6 weeks or 6 months rather at work, and then they'll come home with their family for the other half of the year. And one famous story about 3 or 4 years ago came out about this woman who her husband was away, and she found his collection of pornography that he was keeping. And so she secretly replaced it all with manga about herself and him having intimate relations.
That's
so
smart.
She drew herself in very flattering manner. So she was exaggerating her body proportions and her reactions to his passions in this. And what do you know? It became one of those, you know, when you go to the hair salon and the lady folk all like giggle and talk to each other about the things that, you know, the other lady did and they're going to do it too.
Yeah.
It became popular for women to entertain their working husbands, to send them with their own private naughty collection of their wives that they could keep with them in their dormitories while they were gone. And thus, you know, a lot of marital disputes kind of faded away. But this right here is targeting people in Japan who look at characters like Matsumoto Rengiku, Faye Valentine, Nami, and so many others, and see like, yeah, I want to be that sexy. I want to be that beautiful. I want to be out there and showing off what I've got like these characters. Whereas the West is like, oh no, we can't do this unless it's a person who is trans or who is traditionally not viewed as attractive. We need, if they are attractive, we can't show them.
I posted the Tawaba article that I did for Bounding in the private chat, because that's why I think they're going to the UN, because the UN has it out for Japan. But yeah, this is if you scroll down, you'll see her. She is very, very, and all the characters are very, very voluptuous.
Yeah.
And people are just so. The UN women and all these Karens, they're so pissy about it, and they don't take into consideration, as I said, they don't take into consideration that women like this do exist, and women like, and not just that, even if they don't have the assets, some women, whether they're lesbian, bi, or not, we just like looking at pretty things. We like looking at sexy things. And sometimes we aspire to look sexy like that.
Well, just like there's a male power fantasy, there is a female power fantasy, and there is a thing called boob envy, as I'm sure lady folk in the audience are aware of.
Yeah, see that's the ad right there. See, that's the ad that they got all pissy about. She's not even looking at the camera. Her body is turned away. She's just peeking over her shoulder. You're not seeing anything, and they flipped out and said this is over sexualized.
No, compared to what we get in, like even this one down here, like we opened up with this image up here. This is more provocative.
You see more boobage there. It's not her fault that her boobs are like that. Well, they're drawn like that, but you know what I mean. But like,
it is on purpose, right? It is on purpose. But the thing is that, as you pointed out before, this is not a real person.
Yeah.
Right. I don't particularly find this stuff attractive. I'm more interested in adult characters who are top heavy. It's just my own preference, you know? But this is much different than having a schoolgirl on the cover with a tentacle monster defiling her. Yeah. This is a young lady who is, top heavy that we have here. And she's not, right. She's not even being shy. She appears to just be saying hello. And that's it. There's no nipple poking through even. There's no bra straps that are shown in the shirt. There's nothing. She doesn't have a piece of bread in her mouth that has a winky drawn on it. Nothing.
No, it's just an innocent advertisement.
I wouldn't even know it as an advertisement. If I was scrolling through this, I would assume that this was like a chapter, breaker, one of the, like Naruto had these, the chapter breaks. So.
Yeah. But her and her friends are, they're all voluptuous. They're all curvy. This manga actually started as a Twitter manga. And the mangaka still does post images from the chapters on his Twitter. But yeah, it goes to show.
I just read the dialogue.
Yeah. But yeah,
that was a weapons of mass destruction joke. If you don't know, fellas, that's that's clever. That's clever.
But yeah, it just goes to show you that you could start drawing and like posting your stuff on Twitter and then get signed by a publisher. I think there's at least 2 or 3 manga that started off that way, where they started literally on Twitter and got signed on.
So exactly. And now I want to point out something. I go back and forth on this. I'm not telling anybody that they shouldn't enjoy something like this. This is clearly not meant to be a hentai manga. It is not meant to evoke anything more than, I remember when I was a teenager and I accidentally touched a boob. I remember that. So this whole thing is happening in Japan, though, because Matthew Godet brings us up and he says they come up with nonsense terms for perfectly normal activities. Controlling the language is controlling the culture. Japan realized this. And this was part of Shinzo Abe's mission of fixing Japan, he is the reason why you have manga like this becoming so popular in the country, is that he passed laws that if you're going to have your manga, if you're going to have your anime, you're going to make people want to make children in it, or you're not going to be treated very well on taxation or grants. And that's what happened, is that he put in place the structure for why we see so much manga that is, talking about sex, having like characters who are physically attractive in this manner, like these characters here. Because in Japan, believe it or not, they are training their teenagers to have teenage sex, to be breeding at the age of like 18 and 19, to be having children right out of high school, not even going to university. The population crisis is so severe that they need to make it up in the next 20 years or there won't be Japanese people, period. So this whole thing, so they controlled the culture, and it's this is why you're seeing so much anime and manga that has such a sexual tilt to it now, is because it's really trying to get people to think about this, to really, even young people, to really consider, like, maybe I don't have time to pick up a 5 yen pack of condoms. Maybe I just, go and do that and deal with the repercussions. And Shinzo Abe from heaven goes, good.
Good. But yeah, it's crazy to see how, UN Women is just a bunch of dumbass Karens. And also, I don't know if UN Women for sure is connected to the Women's Rights Committee, because if it is, that is the biggest irony. It's extremely ironic, but it's already ironic as hell that UN Women ain't even focused on the countries that are actually abusing women. That's on their Women's Rights Committee. Why aren't you focused on that? Why are you targeting Japan? There's no reason for this. Go target them instead. Get them countries off of the Women's Committee, or try and like do something about the women in those countries to make life better for them instead of attacking Japan.
Well, and this is just it. This is the reason why they go after them. And like you pointed out, they're going after them because of the sexualization of characters, however they want to perceive it, big boobs or otherwise. If it wasn't a big boob, it would be a lifted skirt. So whatever it is. But the reason why they're doing this is because Japanese anime and manga have taken the world by storm. And in particular in the US, it's becoming a massive, massive anchor in media for traditional values. And so it has to be destroyed. It has to be brought into line. As Matthew Gaudette brought up earlier, if they need to control the language, they need to control the culture. This is what is happening with this effort. It's an effort to bring down an external force on the Japanese media makers to force them into making propaganda-driven crap, like it's what we have here in the US, with characters who are so hideous you wouldn't even want to think about having sex with them, let alone breeding on any level, right? Meanwhile, Japanese, you got Spy X Family, which in my opinion is single-handedly saving the Japanese replacement rate. Like that makes having a family look so fun. It's such a good spirited thing, but it's the antithesis of what people like Barack Obama, Rahm Emanuel, the ambassador to Japan right now, Biden, their whole administration wants. It's the opposite. They don't want families. They don't want children. They don't want harmony. And that's all that comes out of Japan right now, is have a family, create harmony, bring honor to everyone you have in your bloodline.
Well, not just that. I mean, like we see with Beastars, if you've ever read Beastars, Beastars is like the more mature version of Zootopia. It really goes to another level, especially like around the time there was the riots that were happening in the Beastar mangas between the carnivores and it was the herbivores, rioting outside the meat district. It was around the same time that the George Floyd riots were happening here. It was just that timing was so interesting, and it just made it even so much better covering Beastars at that time.
And here we have the trailer for it.
The fur looks great. Must have done some hand-drawn. For Legoshi, they must have put like some hand-drawn animation on his fur, because the texture of it looks really, really good.
Yeah, I would say that this might be a hand-drawn scene itself.
They use this is Orange we're talking about. They use all CGI, but sometimes for fur and for for grass and stuff like that, they'll use hand-drawn animation for texture. But this is CGI. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I almost forgot. Since we were talking about the population crisis, there's the mangaka of Beastars has a manga about it, revolving around it, called Sanda, and takes place in Japan, like way into the future, where the population crisis is so bad that they send their kids to like school, and they have everyone's in an arranged marriage and stuff like that. Yep. And part of the whole thing with Santa is one of the kids is the descendant of Santa Claus, and in Japan, Santa don't exist anymore. So that's the whole thing, is bringing Santa back and at the same time with that, making everyone happy again. It's really, really bizarre, but God, is it really good, especially when it in its commentary about government control.
That's the fun thing about Japan, is they don't obey genre. So they'll just mash up a Hallmark movie with Tom Clancy, a Brad Thor novel. They'll mix Santa Claus saves Christmas and the Constitution. And but Yi Ching Pao Lao, sorry, excuse me, my apologies. Yi Ching Lao Prince Ali says, and yet no Japanese media other than Ghibli Studios ever have a chance to participate in the Oscars. Well, we saw that change.
This year it changed.
We're probably going to see more because combined with the strikes and the COVID blip, Hollywood is way behind on producing anything, let alone full-length movies, streaming series. They are really, really at the bottom of the barrel on this. I suspect that's why they're bringing so much anime over.
They're not doing it that much. They're not doing it that much for the theatrical releases, though. They're doing re-releases, but like I haven't even seen it in Japan yet, and I'm surprised it hasn't been the case. Is where they do like a theatrical re-release, kind of like with what they're doing with Star Wars, but with Dragon Ball movies. I was thinking they were going to do that at some point. But the other thing is that one of the a new anime movie that came out like a couple days ago, it was only a 2-day release, one for the sub, one for the dub. And that's because Crunchyroll don't care about theatrical releases. You have to have other studios like G Kids step in and even their theatrical releases aren't that long either. It's just so weird why we're not getting extended theatrical releases for some of these titles or marketing. But in Crunchyroll's case, it makes sense because Perini's an idiot. Yep. But like with G Kids or any of the other licensing companies bringing anime movies over, it doesn't make sense to have like a limited release. It should be in there for weeks. Like with Mugen Train. Mugen Train broke records during COVID. So...
Well, and we've got people pointing out here in the chat some facts about this. Matthew Gaudette says they also do superhero comics better than than manga. Well, and this is a thing called passion.
Yes.
And it's something that's completely devoid in the West these days. There's anger in the West. There's a lot of anger in the West, but this is not passion. That is not passion. This is why tokusatsu shines so brightly when it's put up against things like Power Rangers. This is why anime shines so brightly when it's put up against things like even Teen Titans, the original one even. This is why you have so much contrast between Godzilla -1 and the Godzilla New Empire, or whatever the new CGI monstrosity is. It's passion. Japan, it seems like a place that's dispassionate because of all the machinery and corporate nature, but they imbue this in their children to do everything you have in life with passion, to feel a burning fire within you that competes with the brightness of the sun. And that's why this stuff comes through. That's why you're watching a panda with scars on his face eating ramen noodles or whatever he's having here, and you're into it and you're feeling it. Whereas if like the US tried this, there would be like a trans flag in the background and then like a BLM sticker on his shirt.
Well, that would be now in current year, because Zootopia I don't think had any of that. So
no, the only commentary it had was discrimination on profiling.
What that is. Beastars is about discrimination between herbivores and carnivores, and then you have Legoshi, who is a mixture, a hybrid of wolf and Komodo dragon, and he's a second generation because his mother had more of the Komodo dragon traits in her. And you'll see it. Hopefully they show it in the anime, and if they do it correct, it'll be a very powerful moment in the series.
Look at
this animation and compare it to what we saw with Requiem Vengeance. You could see like the huge difference. You could see the difference between like a studio that's completely specializes in this, and they've been doing this since 2017.
Well, and
crazy.
It's passion. It's clear that these people care about what they're doing and that they feel it in their bones. It's not, it's not something they do for a 9-to-5 paycheck. Yep. The final season.
I'm still sad that we didn't get a shot of Melon because he's such an amazing villain.
It's coming in 2024.
I think they said both parts will be this year, if I remember correctly. But yeah, part 1 for sure is 2024.
Yeah, and then this is what we're dealing with coming out of Japan. Whereas over here, we're trying to normalize Gwen Stacy having a Winky, and we're trying to make sure that Spider-Man comes in every type of racial demographic rather than just creating a new character, because that would be sacrilege, right? Sacrilege. But,
well, then you have like the racists coming after Japan for not putting like more Black people, or they're saying that like different characters, because they are darker, are automatically Black, which drives me crazy, especially like in a series like Shaman King. Shaman King has Native Americans. It's obviously shaman, but yeah, Native American based. And then you have what was the one that they were going at? Oh, it was Mega Man. Mega Man, they were saying that Mega Man's full of Black characters. I'm like, no, you might have some, but no.
Well, Dragon Ball has Black characters. This isn't some revolution. It's been around forever. What bothers me is when they take like Deku and then they do like racial transformation on them. Yeah, like Deku and Bakugo. Just make a new character. I know.
Well, if they're drawing their own version of it, that's a whole different story. But if they're just taking like a screenshot and just editing it, then that's where it's like, it's really disgusting. Blackwashing.
Yeah, I don't like the racial transfer. Not that it should be banned, because I don't believe in that, but I just don't like the racial transformation stuff. Make a new character. My Hero Academia quite literally tells you that over half the planet has superpowers. It's not just Japan. Like, one of the most powerful superheroes on the planet is from the US. She literally controls reality. So she shapes reality, okay? So that's and she rides on top of a stealth fighter. Like, she stands on top of a stealth fighter. It's so ridiculous, but I love it. So just make a new character. It's not that hard. I mean, we have so much to work with from U.S. superheroes, as we mentioned in the chat a little earlier. Horikoshi is paying attention.
Horikoshi's inspired by Marvel Comics, so and you can see it. In some of his designs, you can see it, but like what he does with the narrative though is so interesting. And there's parts of, I want to say, this current arc where like you could tell he is poking at Marvel and DC a little bit, because I think he's getting frustrated with what's going on with Marvel and DC.
Well, he's done with it anyway. This is the last go. I think we've got like 2 or 3 chapters left before Deku finishes Shigaraki.
Oh yeah, it should be ending probably. It's definitely ending by the end of the year, but we'll see what happens. The most recent chapter was good though. Oh gosh.
Well, Horikoshi's strength. I'm not into how he treats women. Every female hero that's died in this, every female character has had like a massively horrific death, and I just really can't get by that. It bothers me to no end how abusive he is when they go. But,
well, here's the other thing too with Horikoshi, and I really noticed this, especially with vigilantes. You could definitely tell the difference. Horikoshi specializes in anti-heroes and villains. He loves writing anti-heroes and villains. You could see it with Bakugo's story. You could see it with the Todoroki family story. You can tell he's having a blast with it, and same with obviously Shigaraki as well. But then you look at vigilantes, where Boku no Hero Academia's hero writing is not the best. You look at vigilantes and what Furuhashi does with the hero writing. He's able to write really good heroes, really a very interesting villain with Nameless Number 6. And we even get, we got a couple of important backstories from there. Stain's backstory. And it really frustrates me that Knuckle Duster was not there when Stain returned for the war. I'm not happy about that still. But yeah, you could definitely tell the difference between vigilantes and with what Furuhashi does and what Horikoshi does. The art from Betancourt is not Horikoshi art, but it's serviceable. But yeah, they are the team that's working on the Spider-Man Octopus Girl series too.
Well, and Horikoshi's strength is in horror. He's admitted that he's very much into horror, and so that's
You
why
could
his
tell.
villains are. Yeah, it's why It's why Shigaraki is such an effective villain. He's kind of a thriller. He's kind of like Michael Myers, but he talks.
Well, there's
And
Toya too as a villain too.
Yep.
Toya's story was just so hard.
That's Dobby.
Well,
so
they got to Toya in the anime too.
Yep.
So you can use Toya.
And that's where we're at for this week on Tokyo Happy Hour. We didn't get to ReZero, but we are at the end. ReZero season 3 is out.
Well, ReZero, it won't take that long. With ReZero, there's a couple of issues with a couple of characters getting censored. And the character designer, who's actually the character designer was saying that it's because of broadcast regulations and things like that. That's why characters are looking the way they do. Like, people need to understand, overseas in the US, Crunchyroll, High Dive, Netflix, I believe, does this too. And what's the other? And I don't know if Disney Plus. Well, Disney Plus is getting their own stuff, so it doesn't matter as much. But those three in particular, they buy the version of the Japanese broadcast, unless it's uncensored. Like with Madosehi no Slave, High Dive bought the uncensored license from Japan, which was on ATX, because ATX is for their adult content. So that's how it is over in the US, and I think in Europe as well. But like, there's other countries like Saudi Arabia or the other Middle Eastern. Just think about the Middle East. They have really strict broadcast regulations. China does too. And they got to accommodate that as well. So when people are saying, oh, it's the West, it's no. It is not the West. Japanese broadcast regulations have gotten very strict. I mean, the scene with Orihime where oh my God, Yorichi puts her hands through her tits. That wasn't even in the Blu-ray. I was surprised by that, according to people that have got the second part of the Blu-ray. But I have to verify that. But yeah, that scene was not even in the Japanese broadcast, and Kubo was pissed because he fought to get a late night slot so he could get that scene specifically. But yeah, Japanese. That's what people need to understand, is Japanese broadcast regulations have gotten stricter over the past few years, and Crunchyroll and Netflix, and then they're buying the Japanese broadcast. They're not buying an uncensored version. The uncensored version is they're the Blu-rays. You have to get the Blu-rays for uncensored versions. Ayakashi Triangle is the best example of it, because the broadcast, which was on ATX, was still censored. And I've heard part of it is so they could sell Blu-rays. That's partially why. But like on the Blu-ray release, completely uncensored. So it's unfortunate how things are, but you can't dictate to the Japanese on how to fix their broadcast regulations. You can't just say it's an American thing, because when the Japanese say overseas, and Hosono said this, the Jump Plus editor, he's talking about like Europe, Latin America, the US. He's not just referring
outside of Japan.
Yeah, they're just talking outside Japan. But for some reason, Americans have it stuck in their head that, oh, it's us. They're talking about us. It's like, no, yeah, there's Western consultants over there, sure, but their video games is where the real problem is. If you want to like go after Western consultants for anything, you got to go after the Japanese video game industry first, because that's where it's really, really bad. Anime, you have more of a Chinese problem than a Western problem. But other than that, not botch localizations, that's outside the studio's control, unfortunately, from what I know. Because they send the stuff, the studios send the stuff to the localizers, and they do the translations there. So they don't, and from what my insider told me, like I think it was the director, was it Zone 100? No, it was a different director. I can't remember which director off the top of my head, but he was saying that they didn't know that this was happening. So, and I think it's the same thing with, I imagine it's the same thing with video games. I know it's the same with manga. Manga, they do not know unless fans like send it to like the publisher or in some cases the mangaka, or both. They don't know what's happening outside of Japan in terms of that. So.
Well, we've come to the end of the show. Now you know, right? Now you know.
Yeah,
what's
now you
going on.
know. You know what's coming. Well, next week we're going to talk about spring anime because spring anime season starts April 7th.
Which is great news because we'll have basically what has been in the works since last spring is now going to be coming out. So this is now, what is it? The sixth year of the Reiwa era. So we should be getting some definitely different media going forward. So we'll see what happens. See what happens. But as always, we hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We'll see you next week. Hey, Nerdigans, where do they find you after the show?
You can find me on YouTube at Nerdigans Inc. or you can find me on Twitter at Packer Girl with the 9 replacing the A and an underscore and then girl. So.
All right, and as always, tune in to Bounding into Comics every day here. We have videos going up about the news. We cover anime topics as well. The website isn't just a monolith of comic book information. We've got pop culture stuff as well, movie reviews. Ghostbusters sucked, but I don't think anybody was surprised about that. And so we'll catch you in the next one. Good luck out there.